I'm so excited to be here with Neda Boin. We've been playing her music in our Revelation Breathwork classes, and it is just so heart opening, so heart filling. So to be here with you in person over Zoom is really an honor, and just excited to dive deep and learn more about you and your inspirations and your journey today. So thank you so much for being here, Neda.
Awesome. Thank you, Jason. I'm happy you invited me. I'm excited.
And so let me read a little bit about you, just in case anyone in our audience or new listeners or people coming to the
Sure.
community want to learn more about you. Today's guest is the soulful and powerful Neda Boyne. Neda is a singer-songwriter and a spiritual teacher with Dutch and Persian roots, born and raised in the Netherlands. You might recognize her from The Voice of Holland, where she sang live in front of millions. But it was actually on that stage that she realized fame and glamour weren't what her soul was seeking. That moment sparked a deep call within her to use her voice for healing and awakening. Her journey has taken her all over the world, from writing songs as a child to performing in Kenya, India, and hitchhiking through Africa to raise awareness for social justice causes. Eventually, she realized that the healing she was trying to bring to the world was actually a reflection of the healing she was seeking within herself. That realization led her to A Course in Miracles. And from that place of spiritual connection, she channeled 15 songs in 2 weeks, all inspired by the Course. Those songs became her award winning debut album, The Light Has Come, which has touched thousands of people around the world. Her latest album, Remember You're Dreaming, is a beautiful, heart opening journey from fear to love, produced by Grammy winner Joby Baker. And through her voice liberation work, Netta helps others access their own inner voice to release blocks, pain, and old stories. Her name, Neda, means inner voice in Farsi, and it's obvious that you're living that name to its fullest. So thank you so much, Neda, for being
Thank
here. Really
you.
honored.
Thank
So
you. Yes.
I, I asked this of our last guest. How does it feel to hear your own bio, your own life kind of summarized like that?
Well, it's funny actually because only today I was like, oh, I need to write a new bio. Like it already feels, like kind of like it needs an upgrade with the things I'm working with now. But I don't know, like for me it's also just like a character, right? Like I love playing this Neda character. I think like I'm at a place now where I'm so happy to play this part, but I also know it's just a part, it's just a role. So I'm not like super attached to those things, but I am happy when I hear them of like, oh yeah, that did really, serve my path and it served for me to be where I am today. So kind of like that.
Beautiful. Well, looking
Yeah.
forward, maybe we'll dive in a little bit more about that journey because the journey is so much of everything, the things that we move through and our experiences, our mistakes, our challenges, all the things
Sure.
help us to emerge to who we're continually becoming.
Yeah.
And so, this episode of The Sound of Healing is dedicated. We like to dedicate to one song that we play in class that really is powerful, and that I think we've been interviewing. I've been interviewing people whose songs, in my opinion, if everyone in the world listened to the song and felt and heard the song, that it would change the world. It would bring incredible
Mm.
healing to the masses. And this song, absolutely, with so many of your others, by the way, we've played so many of your songs in class, including Remember You're Dreaming, and we just played I'm Worthy the other day. So,
Oh, I love
but we're
that.
going to focus on this one, Feel It to Heal It. And I love to play it so we can kind of get into the vibe, get into the feeling of it. And what do you think?
Sure. Yeah. Let's
All
do it.
right. So let's do it.
Darling, let it in. Don't close your heart to protect it. Let it break so the light can get inside. Darling, it is okay to cry. Let it all out. Darling, it is okay to cry. gotta feel it to heal it. Oh, feel it to heal it. Oh, you gotta feel it to heal it. Be gentle with yourself. Feel what wants to be felt. You'll be okay, know that you're safe in the loving arms of God. She's calling you home, so just pick up the phone and feel it to heal it. Oh, feel it to heal it. Oh, you gotta feel it to heal it. Oh, you gotta feel it to heal it. Oh, feel it to heal it. The shortest way home isn't always the best. Pause and rest. Take a deep breath. Oh, feel it to heal it. Oh, you gotta feel it to heal it. Oh, you gotta feel it to heal it. Yeah. Oh, you gotta feel it to heal it.
You gotta feel it if you wanna heal it.
Yeah, yeah.
You gotta feel it.
Oh, you gotta feel it to heal it. Yeah,
Gotta feel it if you wanna
oh,
heal it.
you gotta feel it to heal it. You gotta feel it, wanna heal it. Do, yeah.
You gotta feel
You
it.
gotta
Heal it.
feel it to heal it. Oh, yeah. You gotta feel it to heal it. Oh, feel it to heal it. Yeah.
Yes, Netta. Holy smokes,
Yeah.
yes. How
Feel
do
it
you
to
feel
heal it.
listening to your own song?
I love this song. It's always so nice. Yeah, I used to really not like it at all. But
You mean after you recorded it, you didn't like it?
no, I mean like years ago hearing my own voice, it was always like ugh, like I didn't like hearing my own voice, but I feel like now and it's still developing. Like I really see the voice as such a reflection of who we are. I notice with every retreat I do, like my own voice becomes warmer and softer and more authentic. I feel feel more free to be, who I really am and to be transparent in my relationships. And I used to teach vocals for many years. And at some point, I realized, like, why teach people techniques on how to sing better? Because I realized, like, the more shit and stuff we release and the more trauma we heal, the more blocks to love's presence we breakthrough, the just honestly more beautiful and more depth our voice gets, so when I hear my voice now, it's like I can hear that. I can hear, like, yeah, this is a woman singing that is in touch with herself and with God, and is singing not to get approval, but is singing just to remember and extend the love that she is, So now I can easily listen to myself, and it doesn't even really feel like I'm listening to myself. It just feels like I'm just listening to some beautiful music. So Yeah, I love it. So
Wow. Well,
cute.
my experience of this song is that it's just God speaking to me, to us. It's just a message
Yeah,
from God, God using you as the instrument, as the voice
absolutely.
for that message.
Yeah, it's not even personal either anymore, too. Like I don't even feel like I'm the one that's writing the songs. I'm just a good listener, you know. It's very humbling. And I think it's good as well because you know, there's such huge healing and transformations that happens in my retreats, and I think it's very good for me to always know very well that I have so little to do with it, you know, that really the only thing I always celebrate myself for and give myself credit for is that I have the courage to just show up without a plan and just to listen and follow, you know, and be that channel. But I don't take credit for it. The songs neither, you know, I never go sit behind the piano and be like, "Oh, I'm going to write a song now." Like, no, they come, you know, in the morning I'll hear like a little knock on my door. That's kind of how it feels, and it's like, "Oh, there's a song," you know, and then I receive it. That's how I see it. It's never that I'm doing it myself, you know. So it's very humbling. I know, yeah, all I need to do is just listen, you know, and be open to hear it and receive it and follow through, you know.
So that's a beautiful segue to feel it to heal it. What was the origin? Was that one of the experiences where you just woke up and it just poured out of you, or where the inspiration, the
Yeah.
origin of this song come from?
Well, I think often with certain themes, they're first and foremost usually always for myself. But as you know, there's one mind, right? So whatever is for me, of course, is for the entire universe. But I can definitely see like this song came through before, like kind of way before, probably like more than a year before, maybe even 2 years before I actually went through a big breakup, you know? So the time that it was released and like finally record and released and everything, that's actually when I went through the breakup. So it was like a beautiful timing for me also to remember to feel it, to heal it. And it's also been a theme throughout my life. Like growing up, I was very much don't feel it. Like just only show your joy. I was always very naturally joyful and I still am. I'm still a very joyful person. I love to make jokes. I love to make people laugh. I'm so crazy even by myself. I make myself laugh all the time. Like I'm so crazy, you know? But but there was also of course sadness and you know anger and all of these other emotions that I didn't know and I didn't also learn from you know from young like how to deal with these emotions. So any uncomfortable feeling I would just you know push down or maybe go run up to my room and cry for a moment and then come back down with a big smile on my face again pretending like everything is fine. So it's really when the voice liberation and A Course in Miracles came on my path. They kind of came on my path around the same time. I think A Course in Miracles a little bit earlier when I was 19 or 20. Yeah, I think 20. And I think I was 21 when the voice liberation work came on my path. So it very much came together where A Course in Miracles is, of course, teaching us so much to look within and not to be afraid to look within. And that our task is not to seek for love, but to seek and find the barriers within ourselves that we place against that love, right? And then the voice liberation was for me and still is like this really this powerful tool to actually go within because we can say like oh yeah now I'm going to look at my emotions but how do we do that, right? But with music and using our own voice, that's actually I've found like it's such a direct tool to get access to our subconscious mind. And you notice that as well when listening to a song. Sometimes it can just instantly hit you. Like, why is that? Like, why does it, you know, where they say to, right? Like, words can only go so far, but, you know, music speaks to the soul and to the heart. So, yeah, for me, it has been a really, really important part of my spiritual journey to learn to really feel and to not walk away from my feelings. And yeah, giving them voice by singing them, not even the songs, but just expressing like we do in our retreats and the workshops, the voice liberation work, like no words, just like, this is how I feel right now. Inhale into what I'm feeling and exhale into whatever sound wants to come up has been really, really, really helpful to bring it all to the light, you know? Also to give words to it. Like I think just being transparent, like that's something, the no private thought practice that I've been practicing, especially the last couple of years even more. It's just so powerful to like be fully transparent and to not keep anything hidden. But then I still notice I see that also in my retreats that oftentimes we have these dyads and there's a certain topic that we would share about and I allow them to share in words. But at some point, I, I invite them to let go of the words and just go into sound. And whenever they do that, whenever they let go of the words and they go into sound, instantly people start crying. And the words couldn't bring them there, or you feel the anger all of a sudden come up and it's they start shouting or um so it's really beautiful to see like yeah, the words are helpful as well, but like of course the miracle says right there, but symbols of symbols twice removed from the truth. And maybe the sounds are just once removed from the truth. I don't know. I don't know what it is, but it's very powerful, so yeah, feel it to heal it, man. That's the way.
I was watching one of your YouTube videos where you brought this man in a retreat through talking about
Mm.
speaking, just saying the things out loud, that it's like
Yeah.
there's something healing about just saying it because we don't want to admit it, we don't want to acknowledge it. So just to say, and then what you had him do was singing that, and you were singing with him. It was
Yeah.
so moving. And then you could
And you see this
see,
twitch, right?
yeah, you see
Yeah.
the shift in his energy. You see, that was one of the words I wrote down as we were listening to Feel to Heal It was permission. Some
Permission.
people
Yeah,
and
totally.
they kind of need permission, be like, oh, it's okay to feel.
I think all of us need that, not just some people. I think we all need that. We need the permission. First and foremost from ourselves, because I mean everything is a reflection of our mind, right? So if we feel like, oh, other people aren't giving us that permission, is like, well, are you giving it to yourself? Like, and probably once you start giving it to yourself, that's going to be reflected outside of you and you're going to see people that are so good with giving you that permission and encouraging you and, really applauding your courage to feel all of that and breathe through it. Um, yeah.
And you shared, one of the big themes here that we talk about in Revelation Breathwork. It is what Revelation Breathwork. It's the primary vehicle is like getting out of your head and the thinking and
Yeah.
the words, which can be helpful, and into the body, into the feeling, just into a different layer of listening.
Yeah.
And something that you shared that I want to just ask another question on is when you were younger, you were always like thinking positive or trying to feel good, and then you started to acknowledge later in your life that it's valuable to acknowledge the uncomfortable feelings that are and just give them
Mm-hmm.
that space.
Mm-hmm.
I think so many people, especially in our society, it's like either like suck it up and don't feel, or like just
Mm-hmm.
think positive, get out of the uncomfortable feeling,
Mm.
like spiritual bypass,
Spiritual
just
bypassing.
understand the thing intellectually. It's all
Yeah.
God,
It's
but
all
you
an
feel you're
illusion.
yeah. So can you share more about, I guess, your own, like, what was your upbringing like? We're so young and impressionable. What were your parents like in that regard, or was this more of your own spiritual journey, and how influential
Yeah.
were they were?
Well, I think we all take on our roles in our family system, right? And it's like for me, I was the youngest of five. And so when I came into the family, there was a lot going on already. And I think unconsciously, I took on the role of like, don't worry about me. Like everything is good. I was like always having the good grades and never, there was never sort of like any worries about school or, I was always making sure like, no, I'm good. Um, but deep down, of course, there was just a lot of sadness. But I think unconsciously, I just always felt like it's too much, I can't share this, and we also didn't learn, like my parents also didn't learn like how to cope with uncomfortable emotions. Like they never asked like, hey, what is something challenging for you right now? Like this is something now I love asking. Like even yesterday I had lunch with my parents and I love to ask this question, like with my friends as well. Like, tell me something that feels challenging for you right now in your life, and tell me something that you're excited about. You know, like just to get both. But usually, like what we grew up with, and even now still, it's like, how was your day? What was fun? You know, like what was good about it? Or, but it's rarely like uh what made you sad today, or what was something challenging for you, what was something hard for you, you know. I think now there's more parents that are kind of getting into that, and teaching kids. I have my brother living here. They have this book for my little nephew. It's called Big Boys Also Cry. And it's like these type of things now where this generation is more aware of, like, hey, that's so important. It's so important to also teach them how to feel the discomforts and the sadness, and to share about that and to be honest about that. But back then, yeah, my parents didn't know, and so I didn't know, and I had to learn later on to share. And even, the last year, I would say, because I just moved back 2 years ago to, I have a little forest casita now. I used to live in Rotterdam, big city. I moved out when I was 18. So even more like that was all in this, I'm so independent. I was always super independent, always like, don't worry. Now I'm thinking like, oh my God, I was so young, I was like 18 moving out in this different city. But my mother was so young, like my mother was 18 when she moved out from Iran. She came all the way to Europe. So for her, it was also, I guess, like kind of normal. Yeah, this now that I'm back here, it brought up a lot of the family stuff. I've really been healing a lot with that these last couple of 2 years. It's been really beautiful. My parents are very open to it. Of course, sometimes they can get defensive, or, it can trigger some. And I get that because I get that as a parent, you've always wanted the best for your children. So I get that it's pretty confronting when your kids go through therapy and they figure out all these things of, what might have not went so well. But I think they're doing a pretty great job with being able to talk about it and being open to hear about it and these type of things. So it's been very healing. Um, yeah, I've been very much working on shifting those family patterns and breaking free from those roles. So yeah, it's good. It's very good. Yeah.
What a beautiful testament to the healing journey. And I am going to give a lot of credit to your parents for just having that conversation or listening. And a
For
parent
sure.
myself, the defensiveness that can come up. I
For
remember
sure.
when I was going through my master's in spiritual psychology, we did a lot of healing work, a lot of like looking at your past, the parenting that you had, the environment you grew up in. Oh, this came from that and that came from that. And then when I became a parent, it's like, oh, I'm doing the best that I can with the tools that I have,
Sure.
and
For
then
sure.
learning that it's not personal, meaning like we are souls having this human experience, and
Yeah,
we in a way we chose our curriculum, we chose the issues that we wanted to move through, we chose the parents that would kind of help us with those issues or growth opportunities or expansions into love. So it's no one's fault, and it's all part of the divine design. And so
definitely.
I had so much more compassion as a parent moving through, and knowing that I'm doing the best that I can, and my kids are still gonna have stuff on
For
me of what I
sure.
didn't
For
do or what I did,
sure.
because again, it's
Absolutely.
not
You're
about
gonna
me.
hear about it.
I'm gonna hear about it, and can
And
I?
if you raise them well, they're gonna, share it with you and be open about it, and trust that they can have that conversation with you as well.
Yes, and can I keep my heart open to like hear it and not get
Yeah.
defensive or take it
And
personally or
feel it
anything?
to heal it.
Yes, yes. There's so many things like to go back to as you're sharing. One of them is the again talking about divine design, that 2 years before you maybe really needed that song in your breakup, the song came to you. Were at the time were you like, "Oh, this is nice," or were you like, were you like, "Why
Yeah.
is this message coming through?" Or was it until 2 years later where you're like, "Oh, that's why it came. It was preparing me for this." What was that
Yeah.
like?
No, I mean, at that point, it was already very much part of my life, like the feel it to heal it, because I had already, realized like how I didn't do that when I was a child, but like it wasn't like something really, there wasn't like a lot going on in my life when it came through that I was really like, oh, I really need this song now. You know what I mean? It was more like when it actually was released that it was kind of that process. It's a lot of times it's like that. Even like with a more recent single, I learned to say no. It's like really the moment that I released it is when I actually felt like I really had this big transformation around learning to say no. And when it came through, when that song came through, I don't think I was really there yet. So it's kind of, it's kind of funny in that way. Um, and there's a new song coming out now, April 21st, that is called I Release. And that is very much about releasing family trauma and patterns and all of that. So I'm like kind of curious to see, like, okay, it's, probably going to mark another sort of, yeah, just big release of those themes in my life. That's kind of how I see it. Yeah.
That's so beautiful. And your last full album, Remember You're Dreaming, debuted in 2021.
I think so. Is it 21? I
And you've
thought
had
maybe
many,
22, but
yeah, I
yeah.
think it was 2021, and you've had many releases since then. Are you create, yeah, 20, no, December 21st of 2021.
Yeah.
12, 21, 21. I see what you did there.
Yeah,
Um, you've had many singles since then. Are all these singles coming into another album, or is it just releasing these
yeah.
these singles? Okay.
They are on a new album. The album will be named. It will be named Winds of Change. Beautiful songs. I'm so excited to release that. I don't know when yet, honestly. With even with that, I'm just following Spirit's guidance, but the songs have already been recorded. There's just a few that need to be mastered, but it's pretty much done. And I just felt the guidance to just release a few singles before actually releasing the full album. Um, but I do feel I would love to share the whole album this year. So I think that will happen. But I'm really just listening and following along the way. So I'm not sure, but I'm really excited to share new music. I think it's definitely time. Yeah.
Well, winds of change and releasing it this year, there's a lot of change happening, I think, globally in the world for
Yeah.
sure, and also locally in people's lives. Like there's no more in my experience, there's no more hiding out, there's no more ignoring, I think, what's happening both collectively and individually. And so I'm
Yeah.
curious what your experience has been being in the student of A Course in Miracles, that being the way that you
Yeah.
live your life, and then also how do you see what happens in the world as a reflection of that?
Yeah, beautiful question. I think for me, there's never really much of a difference. Like I think like the ego will always come with new ways to try to make the world real, and make exceptions to our forgiveness practice. I still think with everything, whatever triggers you is an opportunity for healing, and it's just a forgiveness opportunity. And it's, if it presents itself into your life, whether it's by you reading something in the news or something personal is happening, or there's bad weather, or whatever seemingly big or small thing that is occurring, it's always still the same process of what are you going to use this for? Are you going to use this for the purpose of the ego, or for the purpose of the spirit, for love or for fear? And that's like the only choice that we always have. And I know that when I'm using it for fear, I'm gonna feel like crap. And when I use it for love, I'm gonna feel good. And now this doesn't mean that, because this can also, of course, be used to sort of like have blindfolds on and be like, oh, I don't give a shit about the world, it's all an illusion. And it doesn't mean that, you know, there can definitely be inspired action. Maybe you feel to give money to a certain cause, or maybe you feel to volunteer somewhere, or do, you know, there's nothing wrong with that, because I think there can also be this course community where it's almost like sort of like frowned upon if you do something in the world, almost like, oh, that must mean that you take this world seriously, you know, where it's like, well, you know, you also are breathing and taking a glass of water in the morning. Like that's, you know, like any, don't make any sort of like the levels of the world, like it's all the same, and it's all like, what are you using it for? So yes, if you're giving that money, or if you're volunteering from this place of injustice, from this place of anger, resentment, fear, then yeah, what is it contributing? You know, it's just it's yeah, that's, I wouldn't recommend that. But if it comes from love and inspiration, then go for it. And with anything, I would say just use it to remember who you are, and don't use it to divide and to blame and to um yeah, to make the ego stronger and bigger inside of you, you know, because that's what you're doing with this I am right and they're wrong. It's just the ego. It's like this tree that is just like push, just sprouting the the roots, you know, deeper inside your mind, and it's like, no, that's not what you want. And ultimately, also to be truly helpful, you know, I think is to do the healing work, and is to use everything for healing, because if there really is one mind, and I do believe there is one mind, then whatever I'm healing is actually beneficial for the entire universe, you know, because we're all going back home together. So it is for everyone. And I think the more, as you know, individuals, we remember the love we truly are, the more that's also being reflected um, in the world, you know. And I mean, even that, the world is a reflection of our mind. So it all always comes back to that. What is going on? Where is the war living inside of me? And what can I do about that? And again, like, doesn't mean that you shouldn't do anything in the world if you're called to do that, because I think that can be another pitfall from a lot of Course in Miracle students, of just like don't give a shit about anything in the world. And I don't think that's the way either. Um, but yeah, it's all inside of us. The whole world is inside of us. So do your own work, you know, and don't point the fingers outside, or be worried about what should change and how people should change. Like, you change, you do it, and you heal, and you become a better you, and you show up as the miracle worker, reminding people of who they are. That's what you can do.
And I want to ask you, like, can you share with people who, like, they hear, maybe they're not into A Course in Miracles, maybe they don't really identify as religious, but they call themselves spiritual, again, whatever that means to people. But I want to hear you share, like, when you say, oh, some people say the world isn't real, or it's all an
Mhm.
illusion. Like, can you share more about that? Because some people be like, what do you mean it's not real? I'm here, I'm doing this, I'm doing that. Can you share that perspective from A Course in Miracles, or your own understanding of that?
I don't know if it's per se helpful, like when you, if you're not into A Course in Miracles, I don't think you need to understand the whole metaphysics of that. I think what might be more helpful is to understand true forgiveness, and to understand, like, hey, what can I do when I'm being triggered? Because this is for me the biggest medicine, true forgiveness. So I can go through that if one,
Please.
and maybe the question you asked me, maybe you can answer that if you do feel like you want to go into that. Um, but yeah, so the true forgiveness. So for me, whenever I'm being triggered by anything, so the first step is actually that feel it to heal it. So first it's just to allow myself to feel that, and just notice it, like, hey, there's there's a disturbance. There's something going on here. Can I pause instead of distracting, moving away from it, numbing, doing all the things that we know to do to like not look at it? Can I pause and look within, with the spirit? So first there might be still all of this like, but I'm right, but this, but that. Then it's just for me to like really allow myself to look at all of those judgments. So to not try to be spiritual, to not be in this case also, oh, it's all not real, everything is an illusion, everything is love, only love is real. Well, if you're feeling this trigger, you clearly don't believe that only love is real. Otherwise, you wouldn't feel this trigger, right? So there's this lesson in A Course in Miracles that miracles replace all grievances that talks about this so beautifully, where at first he invites us to really look at our judgments, look at our grievances, look at the way that we perceive, often a trigger has to do with someone else, right? So be super honest about all the judgments that you have about that person and just let it come up to the surface without it making it right or trying to prove it, but just like letting it come up and see where you feel that in your body. Often when I do this in my retreats and workshops and even here by myself, I also see like, is there some sound that wants to be released from this anger or this trigger, this irritation, this sadness? Is there some, yeah, whatever wants to come out? So I'll just start maybe shaking or just like letting it out in whatever sound it wants to come out, just to really give it space. And once I've done that, it's time to go deeper. And I see like, okay, where do I recognize this feeling from? It's often something from when I was younger can come up as well. Like this memory that can come up of like, oh yeah, that was like the same feeling, even though it might not make any sense. Like it's like, oh, that's a completely different situation. But if you just close your eyes and say like, okay, where do I know this from? There's often just like this memory that pops up in your mind that still like is unresolved. And there again, you can just give space, give some sound to it, maybe shake it out. And then we look at what is the belief underneath this memory. So what did it actually trigger? Because as one of the lessons says, I'm never upset for the reason I think. So whatever happens to me in this world, the ego is going to say, I'm upset because you did this, or I'm upset because this happened. But it's always, this is what I always used to say in prison when I was teaching there. I would always use the metaphor of salt and the wound. It's just that trigger is just the salt. But the wound is actually the cause of that salt stinging. If we wouldn't have a wound, then that salt would just be a nice little scrub. It will make our skin soft. It would be good. But it's the wound that the salt is being thrown in, that now we have a problem, and now it's hurting. So we can go to the salt. That's the endless journey, like the hamster in the hamster wheel of the ego. Let's look at the salt, look at the salt, look at the salt. And spirit is like, well, you're gonna keep running forever, like you're not gonna get anywhere by looking at the salt. We have to look at the wound. We have to go inside, take back that projection and see like, hey, what is actually underneath it? So you find that projection, that wound that is underneath that trigger by checking like, what is it that the ego is trying to prove here? There's always this belief like, this is clearly proving that I'm not good enough, or this is clearly proving that I'm abandoned. This is clearly proving that I'm guilty. This is clearly proving that I'm not worthy. This is the wound, this is the thing that actually hurts. And ultimately, it all comes down, of course, to that one belief of I'm separated from God, separated from love. But sometimes that can be very abstract, so it can help. For me, often the belief that comes up is I'm abandoned, and I resonate more with that than I'm separated. So it's kind of more like what word works for you and where you can feel it like, oh yeah, I feel that like in my heart or in my belly or in my chest, my throat. And again, in my retreats and workshops, then we'll really sound that as well, to really go with our mind to the place where that belief lives inside of us and release it through sound. But you can also just really imagine placing that belief into the hands of the spirit. So just like in very short, and then just to add, like, so you release it into the hands of the spirit and you ask for it to be replaced by the truth. So so in short, it's like you feed it, you feel what is going on, you go deeper to check, hey, what is the belief that is actually underneath this trigger? And then you hand it over. And as you truly hand it over, and I can see for myself that when it doesn't work, it's because I actually don't really want to hand it over. And my ego still has an attachment to being angry or being resentful because the ego thinks that there's some value in not forgiving. It's actually like that. The ego can really, will say, like, for me to be innocent, he needs to be guilty. So if we're not gonna fully forgive this situation, then, where does that leave us? So we have to come to this place where we really realize, like, I really don't want to suffer anymore, and I rather be happy than be right. And forgiveness is not a sacrifice. It's not this thing that we give away. Forgiveness is a release of fear. It's a release of pain. It's a finally seeing clearly. It's a replacement of fear by love. It's the sweetest medicine that we can take. It's not anything to be afraid about or to feel like it's a sacrifice of anything. So once we get to that place, it becomes very easy to wanting to hand it over and wanting the spirit to replace all of our cuckoo-ness with miracles. So yeah, that's my practice, and that's like a continuous practice. Whenever something comes up, that's what I do.
And it sounds like that's what you do in your workshops as well, is help
In my
people
workshops as
learn that
well.
practice.
Yeah, and then it can go so much deeper with the voice as well, because yeah, like we talked about, I think with the breathing as well, you get to a place where all that resistance is just gone. I think that's the thing with the voice, that it really helps in breaking through resistance, and it can go so deep. But then there's like a lot of variations that I do with this core practice. So sometimes there's more of a journaling and combination of journaling our thoughts and then releasing and forgiving. Sometimes there's things in pairs, where we actually can sort of like embody the person that we have a grievance towards, and we can actually say these things out loud, and the person can help us in our forgiveness practice. Or there's different things. Again, that is also just channeled in the moment, so it's always fun to see how these exercises unfold, but they're always based on the forgiveness practice of A Course in Miracles. Yeah.
So beautiful, and I there's so much to kind of dive into and talk about what you just shared in terms of the process. One of the big things that stands out is the feel it to heal it. In that, my own experience as like being an overthinker, a mental person, it's safer to stay in the head. So in a way,
Yeah,
it's safer to understand your issues. Oh, my issue came from my
for
my
sure.
childhood when this or that happened. So they stay in the head. I get it, and I think I've healed it, but the energy, the emotion is still there. And so what
Yeah.
you're sharing is this process of feeling it first, and then maybe not in an order, but feeling it as a core component. And what you said too, and this was a question that I wanted to ask you, is like, well, some people that are mental are like, well, how do I feel it? I think I'm feeling it. And my wife would always say, you're not feeling it, you're feeling, you're thinking about it. So like, what's the sensation in the body? Like you said, oh, it's in my throat, or it's a tightness in my chest. And then I can, oh, a sensation, I can feel that, instead of like, feel your
Yeah.
emotions. I don't know what they are. So it's a way to access that
Yeah.
energy. And then as we give ourselves permission to feel whatever's present, the what you shared is like the wisdom, the memory will pop in. oh,
Yeah,
here's the wound, or as I like to call it, it's like it's just what you said. It's just a misunderstanding that God doesn't love me.
yeah,
It feels like a wound. It hurts,
yeah.
but when we get to it, oh, it's just a misunderstanding that I've been
Exactly. I
buying.
love
It's
that.
not even the thought
Yeah,
that God doesn't love me that causes the pain. It's that I'm believing
yeah.
that thought.
Exactly.
And so
Exactly. I took
every
it seriously.
yes, I believed it. I thought it was
Yeah,
true. I invested my energy into it. And now I'm suffering the effect of that. And it's all because somebody cut
exactly.
me off in traffic. It's like that
Yeah.
was the instance, that was my trigger, but it really just brought me home back to
And
this.
even the whole like sort of like to go just a little bit into the metaphysics now that you're touching upon it, like this whole thing of like a tiny mad idea, where all was one, there crept a tiny mad idea at which the Son of God forgot to laugh about. Like that's sort of like the origin story of how A Course in Miracles explains the universe, I guess, right? This idea that in this perfect oneness, so truth, heaven, capital H, however you want to call it, there was this thought of the Son of God, of the child of God, like what if, right? Like what if I could be, this, instead of being part of the ocean, like this wave thought, like what if I could be separate from it? What if I could be on my own? And taking that seriously, sort of like the big bang of, okay, this is like a hypothetical of what would happen if we indeed could be separated from source, and if indeed we could live in duality where we are oneness. Like it's not possible, right? Like in pure oneness to have a two-ness all of a sudden, because then it's not oneness anymore, right? Like it says like the opposite of love is fear, but what is all encompassing can have no opposite, right? But like here in this world we constantly experience opposites. um so yeah, that's like, and just like the fact of like us taking that idea seriously. But this is why I'm always like, I love talking about this with like course nerds. But like I get that when you're hearing this and you're not into a course, it's like, but what about this? What about that? Because we can talk about it, but at the same time, it's like, well, it actually never could have happened. So are we even having this conversation? Like in truth, we cannot even have this conversation. So it's just like when we're dreaming at night, it all looks so real, and you wake up and where did the dream go? The dream is gone. And um so I don't want to go too deep in that, but I think it's very powerful, this idea of believing something makes it real. Believing is seeing, instead of seeing is believing. So yeah, taking away that belief. And even with things that are happening in our life, like I was actually just before this call talking to one of my best friends who is going through a breakup right now. So I was telling him as well, feel it to heal it. And to really refuse, just like really refuse to use it for the ego's purposes, where we can see like, okay, the ego, like when you do this a lot, you can already spot it from afar, right? Where, okay, I can see you. You want to use this again to, make that belief stronger that I am unworthy and that I am abandoned and that I'm not good enough. Like that's your agenda. Like that's your plan for this situation, to make me believe that. And it's just like this refusal of like, no, I refuse to use it for that purpose. Like the only purpose I want to use this for is to remember who I am. And I'm not gonna jump on that train anymore of you leading the interpretation of this show. So there's some sort of like power in that at some point as well, where I'm like, nope, we're not gonna do that anymore. And it doesn't mean that we'll still fall in that trap. I think being the happy learner is one of those concepts, right, of the course that I love. Being the happy learner that is not afraid of learning, that does not feel guilty. It says it does not feel guilty for learning, because why would you feel guilty for learning if In truth, you already graduated the first day you came, it's already done and over. So you have no need to feel guilty. But to be gentle with yourself, and that's a line as well from that song. Be gentle with yourself, feel what wants to be felt, right? Like, I think that's so, so incredibly important. That was also for me. I used to be very strict with myself. I was like, wow, if my friends would talk to me the way that I talk to myself, I would be like, heck, I'm not gonna be friends with you. You're terrible. So, and I think a lot of people recognize that, right? Like the way that we speak to ourselves is so harsh. So, be gentle with yourself and really speak to yourself as you would to one of your best friends. I think that's so important.
So getting into the lyrics a little bit, which we haven't even done. I mean, we've talked about this idea of feel it to heal it. The first part, the first stanza, darling, let it in. Don't close your heart to protect it. Let it break so the light can get inside. Darling, it's okay to cry. Let it all out. So you have this idea of letting something in as well as letting something out. Can you share a
Yeah.
little bit more about that?
Yeah, I think the letting in part is just really allowing yourself to feel it and to not look away, to not numb, to not try to spiritual bypass. Because yeah, like you said, it is another strategy to intellectualize. I think this is something, especially for Course in Miracles students, is a thing that a lot of us do because even I think, was it Helen Schuckman that said something like, finally a pathway, spiritual pathway for the intellectuals? Was that her? Or I think it was, right? Yeah. And it's such a thick book, so there's I get it, I really get it. But it's another trick of the ego to just use the words and to not actually go into the experience. And there's this beautiful section in a course that talks about the fear to look within. And I think there it kind of, for me, explains why we do that. And this is all unconscious, but it talks about, like that the ego is like really being so loud about don't go within, don't go within. Like what you find there is like so terrible, basically. I'm paraphrasing, but it's kind of like this, it's so dark and black with guilt. Like you don't want to go there, stay away, just go outside, just focus on the world, go look at the news. um, but then it says, but the ego is saying this too often and too loud. It's kind of suspicious, like how much he's telling us and how loud he's yelling, don't look within. It's almost like, hey, why are you so protective of this? Why are you really trying to make sure that we don't go within? And then it says it's because underneath this fear lies another fear. What if you would look within and you saw that there was nothing there? There was nothing there to be afraid of. There was just only love. And that's the real fear of the ego. What if we look within and instead of all of this darkness, we actually find love? That's the end of the ego, right? Because the ego is the belief in fear, it's the belief that we could be anything else but love. So I think that's always very interesting. And so yeah, it's the way inward, to go out and to soften our hearts to when things happen to us. Life, it can be so painful, man, like especially breakups. Like I was just talking to him and it's like, ugh, I know like how that feels. I think most of us, if not all of us, have experienced at least one breakup, and we know like how painful that is. And not just breakup, there's so many things in life that we gone through where it's like, oh, I just like, you feel like you're dying. But again, I think when we use that for the purpose of healing, for the purpose of the spirit, then it will just crack your heart wide open for the spirit to pour its light into you. So it's all an opportunity, and our choice that we have is what are we going to use it for? That's the only choice that we get to make in every moment, you know? So, yeah. And also to remember that it's okay if you chose wrongly, you know? One of my favorite prayers from the course is I must have decided wrongly because I'm not at peace, right? So, like, whenever I'm not at peace, I realize, like, oh, it's because I chose for the ego. And then it continues by saying, I made this decision myself, so I can also choose otherwise. And I want to choose otherwise because I want to be at peace. And then it says, I do not feel guilty because the Holy Spirit will undo all of the consequences of my wrong decision if I will let Him. And I choose to let Him by allowing Him to decide for God for me. It's this reminder of like, yeah, whenever I'm upset, I put the ego in charge. And when I realized I did that, there's two things that can happen. Either the ego is gonna, come and blame me and shame me for using for putting him in charge. It's like, oh, you're so stupid for choosing me. And it's still ego, right? It's like ego on top of ego on top of ego. This can happen often. Like I'm definitely I was very good at doing that, then blame, like noticing it and then again coming in with the ego blame. So it's like, no, just be kind, be like, oh shit, I forgot. Okay, I chose for the ego. It feels really bad. I don't want to feel this anymore. I choose for the spirit and I make a different choice. And, forgive yourself. It's okay. Be the happy learner. You'll have many more moments like that. And yeah, remember your dreaming and just see if you can have some fun along the way, Don't take yourself too seriously. Don't take this practice too seriously, but just remember to smile.
Can you share a little about that line? Because it seems, I don't know if counterintuitive is right, the word is the right phrase. This idea that don't close your heart to protect it. So it's kind of
Mm,
assuming that we all think if we close our heart, if we armor up, then we're safer.
yeah.
But is that protect? Does that keep us safe?
Yeah, it's not real safety, right? Because when I think of real, like, well, when I think of safety when I was still a student of the ego, I would learn that safety comes from things like money, from having, stability in the world, of like, like all of these things that in truth, it's not real safety because it can always go away, can always like it's always unreliable, right? Where and it doesn't mean that again there's different levels of form. This doesn't mean that you shouldn't get a job or you shouldn't, whatever, like don't just go and jump off a building because like that's the level confusion that some people can get into. Of course, like also be normal. um but if we think of true safety for me now is remembering God, actually, to just remember that He got me, and that I don't have to rely on my own strength. And this is something I remember hearing this like years ago when I was 17. I went one time to church and I think the guy was saying something like that, like don't rely on your own strength, rely on God. And I remember it was making me so mad. I was like, what are you saying? Like I'm super powerful and I need to rely on my own strength. That's what I learned. Like I'm an independent woman and I am, I have my own strength and this and that. But honestly, now I realize like, oh, what a relief to let go of thinking that I know what's best. Because honestly, what do I really know? What can I know? Like I'm so limited in what I know. Even if I was the smartest woman in the whole universe, and I'm definitely not, like I would still know so little. I can never know the whole picture, but spirit does. So like even for anything, like this conversation, my retreats, my workshops, my work, like I get so comfortable knowing that I don't have to do it. Like I'll just sit down and be like, spirit, use my voice, use my hands for the piano, use like, because I know he knows better than me, so there's like such a relaxation that comes from that. And I think knowing that love is who we truly are, and that love created us as love, and that nothing real can be threatened, nothing unreal exists. That beautiful, powerful introduction. I think when we really let that in, that's where true safety comes from. So, and we're gonna realize that not by, closing our heart up like for love. It's actually by letting it in, by letting it wide in, by looking inside, by um actually going into these forgiveness opportunities, by going into these relationships where we learn it. Again, this doesn't mean we should stay in abusive relationships. Absolutely not. And there's also wisdom in walking away sometimes. There's no giving up there. That's something I had to learn too of like, oh, if I'm a good course student, I need to stay as long until this is completely transformed. But forgiveness doesn't end when we leave people. We can never actually leave people because they're all in our minds. So even that is like such a trip. It's like, no, you might break up and move to separate countries or whatever it is, different planets, they're still gonna live in your mind and you're still gonna have to do the forgiveness work. Um, but yeah, the real safety is knowing who you are, and has nothing to do with this world of fading particles or whatever it is.
As I like to say, all
Yeah.
things in time are temporary.
Exactly. Absolutely. Yeah.
Someone needs to hear this. Not sure who, but it's going to be important. You're talking about the Holy Spirit, talking about God. You're saying He knows He's this. And then in your lyric, in your song, in the loving arms of God, she's calling you home. So
Yeah.
just pick up the phone. So share a little more about the he, she here.
Good. I think that's such a good question. Yeah, because I'm sure there's a lot of people that have some forgiveness opportunities with that. I definitely used to have a lot of forgiveness opportunity with that. Now it just for me rolls off the tongue very easily. It doesn't matter he, she, it. But I can tell you a funny story where I was learning about this. So when I was recording my first album, The Light Has Come, this is an album with lyrics all coming from Course in Miracles workbook lessons, right? And there's one song in there, I Am Not a Body, that before I went into the studio, I was like, you know what, let me actually check out what these songs are about because they were channeled and given to me in a span of like 2 weeks where I would just receive these Course in Miracles songs every day and I just put them on the shelf, was like very ashamed of like singing about God. I was becoming this next big pop star. I was on The Voice, like you said. So it was like, I'm not gonna, this is definitely not commercial hit material. So I put them on the shelf. And it was really when I was in The Voice that I, had a breakthrough and realized, look, all this glitter and glamour, it's never going to give me what I truly desire in my heart. And these songs came to mind again. And that's kind of where I surrendered to using my voice for spirit. But I still actually didn't really have any idea of like what do these lessons actually really mean, and let me just go deeper into it. So I had a beautiful process before I went into the studio to really let the teachings of the song enter into my heart and to really integrate what they mean, which I think was very important to do so before I recorded them, because I think a song is also like a transmission. It's like a message that you are receiving as a listener. So I think the fact that when I was singing them, I had integrated that lesson so much and really was feeling the truth of that lesson in my whole being makes it that when people are listening now, they're actually receiving that. I think that was very important. So when I came to this song, I think it's like in the first, I don't have my album here now, but I think it's already in the first line where I say something, or the first few lines where I say, the love of God proclaimed me as his son. And I read that and I was like, oh my God, F no. I cannot sing that. What? Like, I'm a woman. Like, I'm not gonna sing that the love of God proclaim me as his son. So I was like, I have to change it. I for sure have to change it. So it was kind of like, okay, maybe I can change it to daughter, but that's like more syllables. Um, So it's like, you know what? I'm gonna change it to child, and everyone's happy. That's like not like specific of female, male, like anything in between. Back then, it wasn't like, such a big thing yet with all of these different in between things. But then it was like neutral. Okay, so everybody's happy. But it felt like I felt a lot of tension in my body as I was changing it. But I was like, just ignore it, ignore it. I'm not gonna sing son, so that's out of the question. I'm gonna just sing child. Okay. I still had a few days before the studio, and like every day I just felt like whenever I thought of it, I felt like this tension. I was like, it didn't feel good, but I just kept ignoring it, kept ignoring it until like I think the day before the studio. I was like, I can't go in the studio like this. I have to look at what's going on. Why am I feeling so much tension around this song? So I sat down, I closed my eyes. Spirit was like, finally, finally you're here. I was like, okay, what is going on? Why am I feeling this tension? And so quickly, I was just laughing out loud. I could so clearly hear Spirit saying, like, dude, this is a song about how you are not a body. And you are here trying to make sure that everyone knows that you're not a son of God, but that you are a daughter or a child. This is actually about letting go about the meaning of those things and to remember that it's not that doesn't even have any meaning. It's just mentioned in the course everything as he, but it would have been the same teachings with she. So now I always say like it's just for women, maybe we have a little bit of an extra opportunity for healing, because it can really trigger. It definitely triggered for me as well. And I always say like if men, want to have a little, if they feel left out and they want some more forgiveness opportunities, just change everything into I am the daughter of God and just see what that does for you. But it was so beautiful, and of course, I just left it as so you can listen to it. The song is on Spotify. You can hear me sing very proudly that I am the son, that the son of God, and I felt like almost like mischievous, like when I was recording it in the studio. I had so much fun, and I was like, yeah, like so I think that was for me very important to get to that place where I could see like, oh yeah, it's not about that. It's just a symbol. Again, words are twice removed from the truth, right? They're about symbols of symbols. So it's just a symbol of the creator, which the course, refers to as the father. It's just the creator, and the son is the creation. So as with everything, if it triggers you, just use it. Don't blame the course. Don't blame men. Don't blame whatever it is. Just use it and go inside and see. I'm never upset for the reason I think. So I might think that I'm upset because it's just this male dominant language, but that's not the real reason. There's something underneath that. And if I really want to be making progress, I'm going to use it to see what is underneath. So when I really healed that, it also didn't matter anymore. So I noticed like, oh, then there can come this thing of like, oh, I'm a course student teacher. So now I have to use the course language. So now it's like he. And so that became another concept where I was like, no, I also want to let that go. Like I also want to just say like God, she. So that's why in that song, I started to become a little bit more creative with it, and refer to God as, she's calling you home, just to really, practice letting go of the importance of those things. And yeah, maybe that really invites other people into that song as well. Maybe for others, again, it's triggering something. There's always something for anyone. So I think as long as we use it all for healing, um, then it's all good. But I had definitely had my own little fun little ride with that topic.
I'm so glad that you
Yeah.
shared that. It's so
Yeah.
important and valuable. Thank
For
you
sure,
so much.
especially nowadays, for sure. Yeah. I mean, it's always been, of course, like, but now it's has come more to light. So I think it's really good to have that conversation for sure.
And that goes back to what you shared earlier about what's happening in the world. It doesn't matter what's happening in the world. It's
Yeah,
all an opportunity for forgiveness, and am I going
exactly.
to be the presence of love regardless of what's happening?
Exactly. For sure.
Last lyric of the song, I'd love to for you to share something about the shortest way home isn't always the best. Pause
Yeah.
and rest, take a deep breath. Can you say a little bit more about the shortest way home isn't always the best? Like where that lyric
Yeah,
came
well,
from?
I guess again, like now when I look at it, it's like I can argue that as well because, I do think actually the shortest way home is the best, but it all depends on where you're coming from, right? For me, the shortest way is forgiveness, and it's the best way. But I guess like when I was writing that, I was more thinking in terms of the world, as in like, well, let's take for instance, like relationships. So you're going through a breakup, and then like often this advice that people would give, like, oh, the best way to get over a guy is to get under him, right? Like it's the thing of like quickly, like let's not take time for, and even with myself, like this is the first time that I've actually not been in a relationship for a couple of years. Like I always would go from one relationships into the next, and like actually never really taking my time to look at my patterns and to really heal from what happened. It's just like, again, this way to move away from it, to not feel, just like distract and go straight into something else. And it's been so healing for me actually now. I know relationships are incredibly healing, and I think a lot we actually need, this container for to be able to see like all the mirrors and stuff. But oh, the healing that has occurred these last couple of years to look at my patterns and break through so much stuff, it's incredible. So I more mean it in that way. But yeah, in truth, I think, or in this world, I do think true forgiveness as taught by Course in Miracles, of course, not the sort of traditional forgiveness of I forgive you and I'm so good and you're still so bad, but because I'm the better person, I'm going to forgive you. That's not the real forgiveness that I'm talking about. Of course, the forgiveness, as we talked about, of like looking within and looking what is actually the true cause. So, like, really, it's like, like gardening, right? Like I just got into gardening. I'm not very bad, not very good, I think, at it, but I love it. So I'm gonna see now if any of the flowers I planted last year that are coming back, hopefully. I didn't have a garden well, I never had a garden when I moved out, but now I have my garden and it's so nice. But even that, I think it's such a nice metaphor, right? Like the maybe the quickest way to just take away the weeds would be like just to cut everything from the top, right? It would be like super quick, but it's not the most effective way, right? Because it would just instantly grow back. Like the best way is to like really take it from the roots. And I think that's what true forgiveness is going to the roots, taking out that root and really allowing what is behind that. It's not even so much, I mean, of course, the Miracles does talk a lot about replacing it, but I don't even think in truth it's really about replacing. It's actually when we take away that ego belief, it's more that the thing that was already there, we can finally witness it and experience it. I'm more like also that metaphor with the sun, that when the clouds are in front of it and it's so dark and we can't experience the light and the warmth. But once the clouds move away, it's not like there's nothing for a moment and then we have to bring the sun. It's like once the clouds are gone, it's like, oh, there she is, She was always there. She's always there. Even in the night, right? The sun is always there. But we just can't see it right now. So I think that's for us, that's the lesson. The light has come. You are healed. You are saved. You're already home. Enlightenment is but a recognition, is not a change at all, right? And those who seek the light are merely covering their eyes. There's a song on the album where I use those words as well from the course. It's not a change, it's just like a recognition of who we truly are. And the more we look within and shine a light upon those dark clouds, And the more they, move away, it's the light that is behind them, that was hiding behind them, can shine through. And yeah, then we start to experience the happy dream until we wake up fully and remember that nothing, it was never even real. But enjoy the journey, enjoy that.
So last question, so good. How do you define healing when you, because we use this term a lot, healing. What is healing for you?
Mm, good question. Good question. I think for me, what comes up is that healing is just remembering who you truly are. It's like a remembrance. So it's not something that is broken that needs to be fixed. What's kind of like the sort of more traditional, I broke my leg and now that needs to be fixed. I think healing is more about taking away or shining a light upon whatever is not true. By looking within, we shine a light up everything that's not true. And then what is true will be able to show itself, you know? Yeah. How would you define healing? Like
They say healing is remembering who we truly are. Literally the same way that you just said it.
maybe
It's a
I'm just channeling you.
Yeah, I
Maybe
don't
maybe
know.
I should have
Maybe
asked you these questions.
but it is. That's my experience. It's a remembrance.
Yeah.
All the things you said. It's like, oh, the sun's always been there. God's love's always been there. I
Always
just
there.
wasn't able to
Yeah.
see it or experience, or I was focused on this when I
Yeah.
couldn't see. So it's all the things that you've already said. Oh my goodness, it's crazy,
Yeah.
Neda.
And like, I mean, I just actually, I don't know if you can see it. I don't know, maybe this is like mirroring, but can you see this or is this like
I
in
can't
this?
read it. I can see words,
Okay.
but I
It
can't see
says
what it
God is
says.
always with me.
What does it say? God is always with me.
God is always with me. And I actually just put that on a couple of months ago because I still need the reminder. I still need the reminder. So, um, yeah, I think it's so important for us to be gentle. I've said it before, but I think we need some repetition of this because we can be so hard on ourselves and we forget and we'll be reminded. This conversation will remind you again and maybe send it to a friend who you think might need this reminder as well, and let's help each other. We're doing this together.
I love that.
Yeah.
And what you shared your tattoo reminded me when I was deep in the course. I studied the course for about Course of Miracles. I mean, I'm always a student of the course for like 10 years, literally line by line. There's a great volume of books by Kenneth Wapnick. It's called A
Mm-hmm.
Journey Through a Course. And he goes
Yeah.
literally
I
line
love
by
that.
line. He'll do a line and then he'll have like the explanation of it. And I
Yeah.
the whole course, the workbook, the lesson, the teacher's manual, and I remember when I was really in it, I was like, I got to get that line tattooed on my hand, or like I was going to tattoo my whole body
Just
with course lines just as reminders. I ended up not. I'm probably too chicken for tattoos, but where can we find you? How can people who don't live in Europe or in your area or where you are live experience you, get the benefit of your services?
Right. Well, there's different things. I organize many workshops, concerts, retreats all over the world, not just in Holland. There's a retreat coming up in Bali as well. If you're like, let's go all the way, there's a week-long retreat, and that one is really, really, oh my God, that one, it just goes so deep. This is going to be the fourth time, and I think the last time Bali for now. But it's incredible, like to do a week of these type of sessions of forgiveness and having that beautiful jungle background of, like the rice fields surrounding us and just that energy of Mama Bali. Like it feels very much a mother that is like holding us in her womb and supporting the healing. It's very powerful. So there's a few spots left for that one. You can find it on my website, nedaboin.com. Um, I also have some online courses that they can check out. There's a beautiful online course where I just recorded a whole lot of sessions with different themes. So it was like I think 2 or 3 months that I took out to record this, and it's been one of the most healing things for me to create. It was during COVID, and I would just every morning I would just check like, oh, what's going on for me, and whenever there would be some sort of like irritation or anger or sadness or grief, whatever it was, I would just turn on the camera and would ask spirits to channel through and give me a session. And that was where I first experienced like that time is not linear, because I could literally feel everyone that will ever buy this course. I could feel them with me in that moment. And it was really, really crazy. So if you're thinking now, yeah, that was me, I was there, even though you have no recollection of that yet, this is for you. It was totally crazy, but it's a beautiful course with a whole library full of different themes. So from grief, anger, forgiveness, relationships, money, trust, anxiety, joy. Also, if you're just joyful and you want to do, just some free singing and experiencing, you can just go in there and do a session on that theme. And it's very powerful. There's a little bit of a foundation before that of where I teach you how to connect your voice to your emotions, and how you can give space to everything that we just talked about. There's a lot of sessions with the forgiveness that we talked about, guided, so they can do that. And what else? Spotify, they can find my music. They can also find it on my website. I'm on Instagram as well, YouTube, so they can just go wherever they feel guided and inspired to go.
That's the voice liberation program that anyone can go on your website and purchase. And those are all the sessions that you laid out. And they're going to get a whole
Yeah,
lot of healing, a whole lot of experience and understanding about themselves, their
it's really
voice,
good.
love. So, if you're watching this and you've been drawn to anything that Netta has shared, or just her energy and the way that she expresses herself, get that program. Do yourself a favor.
Thank
You
you.
will, oh my gosh, it's a no brainer.
Thank you.
So, thank you so much for being here. I have a feeling that this is the beginning of something cool and beautiful.
Yeah, I so
And
enjoyed it, Jason. Thank you so much. Loved your
I,
questions and beautiful. Yeah.
I knew this was going to be awesome, and I didn't know it was going to be this awesome. That's the beauty of the mystery. Yeah.
Oh,
Oh my gosh, I cannot
awesome.
wait to share this with our community and anyone who spirit brings along the way to experience you and your
Sure.
light and your love and your message and your music and the healing that's available by just you being
Yeah.
in the world. So thank you so
Thank
much.
you. Thank you.